You know what I mean? I use that apostrophe. Yeah.
Would
Hello,
you
everyone.
add an
Welcome.
apostrophe? Oh.
No. Go on. Go on. Keep talking.
I was gonna say, would you add an apostrophe to your name if you had to, like to your first
To
name? Where would you
Ethan,
add it?
I'd
Yeah,
add
if
it
you
to
had to
the
put an.
end. I'd add it to the end to screw up every bit of paperwork.
So there's be two apostrophes when you got to do like
Oh yeah, when if I'm
Ethan's
possessing
house or
anything.
whatever it
Yep.
is. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly what I would do. Um, no, like I've said this before, and that's obviously a very bad idea. But like, if I could make it work, I would. Especially, mainly if I was rich. You know what I mean? I would
hmm
definitely do it. Change my legal name to just Ethan. Like I drop the last name.
You
I'd
dropped.
make that work. It'd be Ethan. And it's no
I don't know.
disrespect to
I
my
don't want.
family or the last name, but like, I really like the idea of just having one name. You know what I mean? I don't know.
See, but then I feel like you'd be more like if you're already rich, that rich,
If I'm rich,
you're kind
I'm
of a
the only
villain.
Ethan that matters.
But you're like a villain. I feel like that fits having a one name as a villain name. You know,
Yeah, yeah. I
like Satan.
guess I changed the last name to be absolutely
For branding.
branding. Yeah, yeah. I changed my name to Mr. Beast. Um,
Oh,
he's being countersued, by the way.
yeah, I know. I
By
remember.
the
Yeah, we talked about that. What is that
well,
like?
he
Any
tried to
updates on
sue
that?
them, and then he got countersued. That's the update.
Right.
Because they're like, we had a contract, and he's literally dishing
Is
or
it
dissing the
copyright
brand.
if I change my name to Mr. Beast?
I guess you run into some
Like,
trouble if you ever tried to market some sort of
be like, it's my name,
product or service.
and then I can sue him for. Be like, he stole my name. Be like, he changed it
It
after. Be
depends
like,
on who has the most money when that lawsuit starts. He will win because you don't have his money. But yeah. What's up, everyone?
yeah,
Welcome to another episode of the Sonic Movie Show. I always try to get him with this. My name is Ethan, and with me here to talk all about Sonic news, and Sonic movie news is Devin. Where is his quote?
yeah. I'm looking at him here. There's not any of them that are really speaking to me. Nope. There we go. There's one.
Wow.
Do you know who
Sonic
said that?
says that. Sonic says that in Sonic Adventure 2 when
No.
he runs into a wall.
Mm-mm. It's Robotnik says it in
Oh.
it's the first Sonic movie.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure he did. Um, hey, oh yeah, I forgot. First bit of news now. I don't have a thing for it because I completely forgot. Because we texted it and it wasn't in a thread that we're
In
doing
the Sonic
news.
movie show group
Right.
chat, which is just
And
us two.
It's just us two, versus our private, which is also just us two.
Our
First bit
business
of news,
managers
right
in
off
there,
the bat.
our imaginary
Uh,
business manager.
I don't have a link for this. But Sonic Movie 3 is beginning filming, but only in scenes that don't have any actors in them
or
until
writers needed. Yeah.
well, I think it was already written.
I,
It has to be. If
we
it's
talked
coming out
about this
next year, it
last
has to have been
episode.
written by now.
We talked about a little bit about
Yeah.
this last episode, but it's been confirmed that they're just doing that. I don't get it. I don't get it. Just pause,
know.
please.
I don't know.
Just pause.
Isn't pause like a way of saying hold on? Is like saying like no homo or whatever. Isn't that like the
I
new
guess.
version?
That's not what
of
I
that?
meant.
I don't know.
That's not what I meant. I meant more just like let's stop like just don't work on the movie.
Yeah. No, I got you. That just popped
You
into
know?
my brain. Yeah, I'm with you. And that's we'll get to the strike stuff later. Let's begin with our first bit of news. I think it's very simple.
Our
Everyone-
headliner.
Yep. Nintendo Switch 2, Nintendo Switch Plus.
No,
what if
I
they
keep
call
telling
that?
you. I keep telling you. Wii U 2.
Wii U 2. Well,
I want it so bad. I
That
want
would
them to
be
be
funny.
like, we know you loved the Switch so much that we
Yeah.
decided to try it again, but with the Wii. Wii U specifically.
yeah. And it's literally like they literally do the thing of like you can use your old Wii U game pads and you can use blah blah blah. No, Nintendo's next console, presumably a Switch successor in terms of functionality, is reportedly the second half of next year, 2024. Second half could be July till December, but it's probably
I think
November.
it's going to be, I was going to say, it's probably a holiday
But
a week or two before holidays, come
you
like
have to remember
Thanksgiving, Black Friday.
that's what makes sense, and that's when Wii U did, and that's when we did before that was in that season. The Switch was in March. It was March 3rd of 2017. And that, to be fair, is also traditionally around the time when they always release like new DS models and 3DS models and stuff was in the beginning of
Just
the
in
year.
time for E3. Oh wait,
Oh, I think that's gone for good now because it's been like the fourth year in a
thankfully.
row of,
There, I'll
sorry,
say
we're
it.
not doing it.
Thankfully.
Yeah. Well, we just don't need it anymore. But yeah, a little bit basically confirmed in the sense of strongly reported, but not actually confirmed to be true yet. Some facts about it: has a portable mode, has a cartridge slot. You know what I mean? Like very basic things. Be like, yes, this is very clearly just a Nintendo Switch, a type of machine. There is nothing new seeming in terms of features. It's not like they're like, oh, there's a camera on it again or something like that. Because remember, the Switch doesn't have a camera. Well, it
The
has
new
that
one has
weird
a
little
switchblade that you can press a button, a
yeah,
little blade pops up.
yeah,
It's a
yeah, yeah.
self-defense weapon now too.
So that's the thing that
Handheld on the
boggled
go.
my mind. The Wii U gamepad had a camera on it and a sensor bar for the Wii remote. Like there was just too much money being thrown away. You know what I mean? Like even though if it was a cheap ass
Yeah,
camera,
that's true.
it's still like expensive. The
I
3DS
mean, that's why the Switch.
has three of them.
That's one of the reasons why the Switch was like quote unquote affordable for a lot of people. I think it's one of the reasons why it sold so well is because
they focused on
it
just
felt
making
affordable.
Yeah, yep. $300 is a lot cheaper than $500. And remember, when the Wii launched, that was $250. Xbox 360 was $500. The
Yeah,
PS3 was $600 at their higher tiers.
yeah. That's the
which
difference
is
between
still,
one eighth of your rent and maybe a 1/3 of your rent or whatever.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, of your budget for free money, that's either 80% or 50%. I don't know, something like that for the month. But yeah, no, Switch 2. I think everyone just basically just calling it Switch 2. But I want to ask you right now, what do you think they're actually going to call the system?
I think they might hit the nostalgia drip here and call it the Super Nintendo Switch. Like get the our age, I guess, people maybe a little bit older, be like, hey, remember the Super Nintendo Entertainment System? This is this generation's SNES. It's the Super Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
And when you get it, the first thing that comes with it is going to be all the free NES games on it or whatever, like they've been doing.
Sure.
And they'll tie in the branding with that a little bit. And you need everyone likes a good nostalgia drip because that's everything now is just remakes and rebrands and stuff. So
it kind of works because like after the Super Nintendo, all of their consoles was different from their previous ones in ways where it doesn't feel like Super Nintendo, besides under the hood, but as far as presentation wise, Super Nintendo was just another Nintendo, but like it's a sequel, it's another one, Super Nintendo is a good name. They Switch 2 based off everything that's so far described. Sounds like it's just another Nintendo Switch is just much more capable and
I think it sounds cooler too than
bigger
calling
internal
it
storage.
a Pro or a 2, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like I know there was that rumor that there was going to be a Switch Pro, which I guess never really. I mean, you had like the updated
my theory
one,
is they had
like,
one in the works, but they decided, you know what? Let's not try to mess with what we have. But I think another thing, calling something a 2 and calling something not a 2, even though it is a direct sort of successor in like an operating sense on what its functions are, makes sense because like, I always respect. I like that PlayStations are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Their handhelds they should have called the Vita the PSP2. They should have done that, but fine, ignoring that.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And for a fact, it's in our heads, a PlayStation 4 game is not meant for a PlayStation 3. You know what I mean? It's some significantly, more elaborate, complex graphics, blah, blah, blah. If the Switch successor, if one of the bigger things in it, which may or may not happen, because NVIDIA is their chip supplier and not AMD, is the backwards compatibility. AMD always has backwards compatibility built into their stuff because they're used to working with Sony and Microsoft now. And so they want those backwards compatibility stuff in there. They always do that. And NVIDIA's never worked with any of the console stuff that I know of besides the Switch. So it might not have backwards compatibility in the purest sense, but still, let's go under the assumption that it does. And one of their big things is like, hey, all those Switch games that were at 900p, they're at least 1080 now. They have graphical bumps or this or that. If they're going to be in like the Switch games you already own, your Switch library is getting a little bit enhanced. Plus, there are new games that are only for the system. I think calling it a Super Switch helps with that versus a Switch 2 because I can see a lot of people being like, oh man, I'm starting from zero again, especially families that may be like, oh, well, I don't want to start from zero again. That sucks. Like,
or they'll do a Game Pass system kind of thing. Make that part of their online service. Be like, for additional $5 a month, you can cross over all your Switch games.
Oof. I wouldn't put it past them to charge because I remember the jump from Wii to Wii U with all their retro virtual console games. They recharged me. If I wanted to get the Wii U version of an NES game I had on Wii, I had to pay $2.
If you're gonna keep it, if they're gonna keep it affordable and whatnot, they have to nickel and dime you in other ways. I mean, like Microsoft knew they weren't gonna beat the PS5 in terms of consoles sold. So what? That's why they've been focusing on like the Game Pass and being like, hey, you can play the same games on your phone and your computer and the new Xbox. It's for
your old Xbox.
And your old Xbox.
Yeah.
So like, I think it'd be, I could see them doing that where like for a price of some sort, whether that's a monthly thing. Everything's a subscription service now. So I think it'd be,
I think could just carry over and like they do all the classic games, but then they added in the Mario Kart DLC and the Animal Crossing DLC.
Yeah.
And so like if you pay for that higher tier, the Plus expansion pack, you get that stuff. And I would not be surprised if they're like your Super Nintendo Switch enhancements for Tears of the Kingdom and Metroid Dread, because Metroid Dread's a beautiful game. I would love to play that in 4K. Or like Pokemon. I did not buy the last year's Pokemon game because it looks ugly. It runs like shit. It crashes. I've never seen a Nintendo-made game. And I understand Game Freak is not Nintendo, but they're Nintendo. Like Nintendo forces
Pokemon
them.
Has a standard.
It crashes
of being
all the time.
Yeah.
That's insane. Nintendo games don't do that. Like, I can't even think of another Switch game that crashes by Nintendo in any replicatable manner at all. And it's not like, oh, you left your Switch in the oven and you're trying to play it at 400 degrees. You know what I mean? Like, but I digress. I didn't get that game.
Playing your Switch in a wave pool. What the hell? Why did it break?
I didn't get that game because I didn't want to play in that manner. If their next console, I will say this is my promise to myself. If their next console is not backwards compatible and it's different or whatever it is, I will buy that Pokemon game, and then I will jailbreak my Switch and I will rip the ROM off of the game I purchased, and I will put it on my computer and I will run that in Yuzu, which is a Switch emulator. I will go through all the legal things. That's the only way to go about it. It's the only way to protect yourself. Don't download ROMs off the internet, etc. But I will do that. But like, I was waiting because I don't want to jailbreak my Switch, because that probably means I would want to buy another one in case, because you can never update it again or anything like that. But I digress. Going beyond that, I don't really have much of a prediction on the name, but I like Super Nintendo Switch. The only thing I'll say against it is, it's unwise to predict what Nintendo does because they just do whatever the fuck they want. And names, especially Nintendo Switch, when that name was announced, I remember being like, I guess it makes sense. And then it catches on instantly. Wii was the same thing, although a lot of people made fun of it.
A word that can be used to like easily that translated. That's the other thing.
People want to be able.
Different
People don't
languages.
want to say Nintendo Switch. People want to say Switch. So you got to say whatever it is.
You bring your Switch and then you pull out your Switchblade. Like I said, missed opportunity. I always said they should have added a component where it comes with the free Switchblade, which will be illegal in some states, but that's the fun of it.
The
saying you own a
Nintendo
Switch.
Semi is what it's called, and it has a gun or a truck.
Has a 10 bullet magazine on it. It's fantastic.
Yeah. You can really feel the bullets in your controller as they
And
ricochet.
you put it in like the one of the glove boxes that you have for like shotguns and stuff in the back of a pickup truck that you always see in movies. I want that for a Switch that I put in the back of my car. So when a cop pulls me over and they search my vehicle, they're like, "Is this an unregistered gun?" And they open it. I'm like, "Open it." You won't. And they open it. It's just a fucking Switch. Prank him. Got him.
But yes, that is our first bit of news there. I think very basic, but on the topic.
I mean, I know you said I was gonna say you're probably gonna get it. I don't know if I will unless it's like. I mean, I didn't even get the Switch until what, like 2 or almost 3 years after it came out. Like after.
Well, if they come with a really cool Donkey Kong game, you're gonna have to.
I don't know. I never even bought the latest Donkey Kong game, so I'm a fake fan on that regard. But
yeah, you are.
Hey, if Dino Crisis a Dino Crisis remastered though was on Switch too.
I mean, Nintendo does make partnerships with Capcom, so that's Monster Hunter. The last one was exclusive to Switch for a while.
They're like,
I could see
we really need to like start off strong with this console. We should do an in-game free game with it. Okay, what should we do? Donkey Kong? No. Mario? No.
Oh, a free game.
Wait, hold
with
up.
The Switch? No.
It's a Dino Crisis. It's Dino Crisis
sorry.
remastered with the Switch.
Here's my prediction though on early software. The team that made Super Mario Odyssey has not released a game since. That's a launch title. Their Mario game is a launch title guaranteed. Metroid Prime 4 announced E3 2017. Apology video early 2019 saying we're scrapping complete development and starting over.
When you said apology video, I thought
it was an apology video. It was 100%.
I'm thinking of that one. What's her name there? Who did the ukulele?
The ukulele.
I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, are you saying there's a game that they're gonna make based? I'm like, it's a bold take.
Yeah, Nintendo Miyamoto comes out to ukulele and be like, I don't like certain types of races. I'm sorry, it's just me.
So bad.
But no, Mario game will be a launch title. Metroid Prime 4 will not be a launch title. It will be within the first few months because they don't want their stuff competing with each other. It'll be a Switch game and the new Super Switch or whatever. That's my prediction. And
Super Switch. I like that more than Super Nintendo Switch. Super Switch.
Well, Super Nintendo Switch, but I mean, probably people would call it
SNS.
Super Switch, right? So
They should rebrand to Memtendo so they can do SMS, and then we'll get some freebies out of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we got the acronym on lock, obviously. There's never been anything else with the acronym SMS before us. Never.
Probably not.
No, never.
But speaking about Nintendo, they recently decided they're going to patent 32 software patents related to Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom game mechanics stuff. This includes the fact that the loading screen shows where you are on the map, which is insane. That's a thing that they find unique enough. What's the other one? Yeah, some of the abilities like I've been actually just started this game and I've been playing.
Isn't it with like Link's physics and stuff?
Yeah, there's
standing
physics
on
stuff.
A moving object.
That's the other thing too. He stands on a moving object and it automatically makes his position determined by
moves
the
in the
position
same
of the
direction,
object.
same speed without further input.
Some of the actual abilities in the game, which are more complex than simply standing on a thing that moves, are being patented, but that's still not excusable. I think the classic example of video game software patent that people like to point to is back in the day, and this expired 20 years later. It's expired recently enough within the past decade. Namco had the patent for the ability to have a mini game get played during loading. So you would be playing Ridge Racer, and while it was loading up the track, you would quickly play Galaga in the loading screen, which meant, because they patented it, no other game company can do that. And that sucks. That's not good. That should not be allowed. You and I right now could make our own Fortnite if we wanted. We can make our own Among Us.
Hell yeah.
We can make our own copy that game, besides don't use its art assets, don't use anything that's owned by them, but we can recreate that game down to the wire if we are good at programming and all that stuff.
Right.
And they can't go after us. As long as it's a unique identity, but the game is 100% the same, we can get away with that. So gameplay patents like this, I don't see how that should work. If we're allowed to do this, why are they allowed to do that?
And maybe this is a stretch, but like, let's say they somehow won these patents. I feel like that scares me for like these bigger gaming companies to be like, let's say Call of Duty comes in, Activision, or I guess Microsoft now, comes in and is like, oh, we're gonna be say that we're the first ones to do like a third person shooter. Like I know it's maybe a little bit more of a stretch than what they're doing. I already think what they're doing is crazy, but I just feel like it sets a precedent for gaming companies to push even further into copywriting. Like, hey, yeah, you can't make any games now with this jumping mechanic, or like a shooting game where you can run on walls, for example. Like you just can't have that anymore. Like that's crazy. I don't know. We've been generally on the span of the copyright laws already suck in the United States and patents and whatnot. But yeah, it's just, come on, man, Nintendo, what the fuck are you doing?
Yep, that is. I think specifically being about Tears of the Kingdom suggests to me that like Nintendo knows that like since Breath of the Wild there have been a few games that have tried to ape it, but I remember back then being pretty adamant that like all future open world games that are starting development after this point will be games in this vein where there's a lot more freedom on what you do and how you go about it, more systems based and less direct quest line type of stuff. And that didn't happen. But I think they realized that like, because Tears of the Kingdom really does like, it's like 7 times more complex than Breath of the Wild in terms of its systems in ways that are awesome. And I think they realize that they've gotten away with being the only ones that are really doing it. And they're like probably thinking, well, we can still be the main people because eventually someone's going to out Nintendo us, or because they can outspend us. I don't know. Maybe they're thinking
isn't
that,
that
maybe
the
they're
whole
not.
point? Isn't
And
that the
they're
whole
trying to protect
argument?
them.
Isn't that the whole argument
I don't
though
think
of
it's good.
like of business, right? Is that it's competition and whatnot, and it just not saying
That's the
like,
argument, but it doesn't.
It's not saying. By the way, I don't give a fuck about businesses, but you know what I mean. That just like this idea that like, okay, well, if they do such a good job, that should push you to make a better product. Yep. But like if you add in these laws where like you can't, especially in something like to me, I guess an equivalent would be like if a movie was like, actually this movie is the first to use like let's say Oppenheimer or whatever. It's the first movie to use black and white and color in the same film. We're gonna copyright that. Like that, like now that limits an artistic vision, potentially an artistic tool, a way of telling a story or whatever in a movie. Yep. I feel like this is the same equivalence where like you start restricting like how games function or like a mechanic in a game, you get into a territory where all of a sudden like you're just gonna be limited on what you're able to do. And I'm not saying like in this like I said, business sense where free capitalism kind of like stuff. I'm just saying from like the perspective
we'll just get better games if they're not squirreling away mechanics and
because like what like I said, let's pretend Call of Duty like patents, like I said, third person shooters, just like that as a concept,
right?
Or first person rather, whatever. Like what? Then there could never be any other first person shooters again. A popular genre in gaming. You know what I mean?
I don't think it's as wide as kind of what we're saying.
I know. I'm saying it's more of an extreme
how they make it happen, but yeah, no. But
I'm just saying it could. This kind of stuff could lead to that in a dangerous way.
And
and granted, this is what the United States, right? Or is this Japan? This doesn't say. We're reading a Eurogamer.
Oh yeah, this is from Eurogamer here. This is by Automaton reported that it happened. Yeah, I'm not sure if it and it hasn't actually been awarded to them yet. We're unsure. It's not that point yet, but hopefully not. But like the idea of patents are a good thing, but like patents, trademarks, and copyrights are 3 completely they're
Right.
similar, but they're different things. Patents being, I think, the best of them in terms of their function. It is like, yes, if you design and invent a hammer, Devin, and you patent that, that means that for like I think it's honestly only 2 decades. I think back then it was 14 years.
Yes,
Um,
14 years was copyright. I don't know
was
about
copyright, and
patents,
then
but
yeah,
then Disney
copyright
came
was
and then
14.
changed that.
Well, copyright used to be 14. You can then reapply to have it for another 14. Then that's that, and then it was the 7 years or until the creator dies. But because corporations do it now, it doesn't. The creator dying thing doesn't really apply. Patents are a different thing. Where yeah, like the Namco one was 20 years. About this isn't going to be that long, but still, the idea behind a patent is yes, Devin, you invented the hammer. Your business gets to get started and get going for a time.
Okay, at least in Europe, I guess this is the first thing I can pull up here. Owners pay a fee of 3.5 years, then 7.5 years, 11.5 years. But yeah, generally speaking, it's not
It's
for
short.
life or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's to be
Still,
that your
that's a
company
long
gets
time, though.
to gets to flourish, gets to start going. But then yes, after that time's up, anyone else gets to make that hammer. You know what I mean? And then it's up to you to invent something else. Keep you figure out how you keep your business going. You can't just be like, we're the only people that make hammers. It's been year 300, baby. You know what I mean? You still buy hammers from us and only us. You know what I mean? That's what the copyright wants, because Disney wants to keep its Mickey Mouse from
I
getting
just
into
say
our grubby
abolish it all.
hands.
I don't give a fuck.
Start from scratch.
Well, I always say,
Yeah.
like, you're talking about the hammer scenario. Who's actually making the hammer, though? Not you. If you make a company, usually you're having
This
other
is
people
a
make the hammers,
theoretical.
so, yeah.
I mean, invent.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I
So
just
this
think
sucks.
regardless,
This is
copyright,
Nintendo showing its
patent.
ugliness.
Yeah, this is. I don't know. It's just
But
I don't like it. I don't like the precedent that could potentially set for
yeah,
the other the bigger gaming companies. Because let's say, like you said, we make our game, right? Let's say we do make something that no one's ever done before. Are we probably gonna have the money to copyright that shit and patent that shit if it's an indie game? Like, indie developers are probably not gonna have as much money. Like, I'm saying, like, the indie developers that are just one or two people.
right.
I mean, there's the indie companies that still have 30 employees and maybe some backing from another production studio or whatever. But
whatever. Yeah.
I'm
I
talking about
mean,
like the Among Us people. I think is a good example because wasn't that made by like 3 people or whatever
yeah,
as
three
like
three college kids, and then 2 years later it blew up. So they didn't have the money that they
yeah.
had.
Remember
when
they
it
were
blew
going to
up.
announce Among Us 2? Like that's what they were working on at the time.
They did
then
announce it, and then they decided never mind, because
Yeah.
our first game actually is making money. Yeah. So this sucks, Nintendo. Bad on you. But I'm kind of curious. I think because it's Nintendo, that's why it's news. But I wonder if this does happen. If this has happened recently with other companies, because maybe this does
Maybe.
happen. Maybe Call of
Maybe we're
Duty
being
does there's a Call of
reactionary?
Duty patent where there's like, the way in which a gun swaps to another gun and how it disappears off the character model could be patented. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, maybe,
That's,
like I said, maybe we're being
that's the
reactionary.
confusing.
We're just
maybe.
reacting to the news and we didn't do our research.
Let's react to the next bit of news. Hey, there's a lot of strikes going on. You have your
I've heard of them.
WGAs, you have your SAGs and your SAG-AFTRAs, and now the more directly involved VFX studios that work with Marvel and Disney. Those people specifically have now filed to join the union. They filed with the National Relations Labor Board to begin that process. So they haven't voted yet, but
they're signing up with they want to tie in with the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees.
Yeah.
So another bigger union.
Yep.
Which is, I think, might be good for them because International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees probably has strike funds and whatnot in case they need to do that. They have probably a bigger budget than if they're by themselves. And we know, obviously, Marvel and Disney have a lot of money that they're willing to burn to stop unions and strikes and whatnot. But no, yeah, this is I feel like this is like the third domino in a really good way because and we've seen it. We've seen the product. You know what I mean? Of the last couple years,
Yeah.
especially on the TV shows and in the movies, where after Endgame, I feel like it really fell off in the sense of like everything's on a green screen, whatever, but it doesn't even look good anymore. It looks like
No, it
it's from
doesn't.
2013. Like I saw, like we talked about before, Black Panther 2 looked like dog shit, and it sucks because like could have been maybe a fun, cool movie, but like after watching it, I'm like, man, this looked so rushed and
Yep.
so just or
They
blurry
realize
because
that they
they,
can abuse VFX workers in a way that's much cheaper than working with other, building
hmm
the set itself has to run through some unions. VFX, workers, they can just abuse them and make that digitally instead. It's cheaper for them overall
all
to
the
do it
fight
this way, which
scenes
is
that
not
are
good.
take place in the fucking sky, of course, or in space
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
so that they don't have to have any sets, and it's just like, okay, you have to
Yeah.
have Iron Man Jr. fight Thanos Jr. in space here.
Yep.
Good, it has to be 10 minutes long. And we'll just add, we'll dub it afterwards. We'll
the
add lib
best
it
the
or
best
whatever.
part too, because there's been lots of testimonials from these. I don't know if it's these specific people, because the thing that's not included this are the third party companies that are contracted, which are we saw a lot of the worst stories from, to be fair. But them being like, there's like a dozen that might be tied to a Marvel movie, and like they'll be given different parts to do. Black Panther 1 is a good example. That fight scene with Killmonger and Black Panther when they're kind of underground in their suits on, they're just bouncing all over the place, looked detached from how the CG on the other things did, because that was just one studio what they were tasked to do. And they don't get to see what the other ones are doing. So there's the cohesion isn't all that there. But also lots of the directors and showrunners don't understand the workflow and pipeline on this stuff, and like the way they describe it sounds like these people are honestly very dumb and unimaginative, because they don't want to see gray boxes and uncolored grayscale undetailed models to blocking out scenes. They always want to see finished or near finished versions, because they see actors, you know what I mean, like they get confused, they think it's broken or whatever, which is hilarious, so that causes them to rush. um but the big telling to me that Disney, specifically Disney, is very comfortable with its relationship with VFX. Very, very, very comfortable is in the last episode of last year's She-Hulk show, which I did
hmm
enjoy that show overall. Last episode, I don't know if you saw it or not.
I
Um,
didn't watch She-Hulk. No,
Spoilers if you give a shit at this point.
I remember we talked
You know,
about last time the Daredevil thing, right? With
Well, yes, there's that, but this is different from that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just quick point of reference: the character is very breaks the fourth wall, and she knows she's in a TV show. Because at the beginning she wants it just to be a lawyer, a law show, and ends up being a superhero show instead. The last episode, she's very upset by how all of the different threads of her story is being wrapped up. She finds it unsatisfying, and she wants to talk to Kevin, who is the producer of all this Marvel stuff, and she goes to Marvel Studios and blah blah blah, and she talks. She's in a room with all of the people working on the show, including major people behind the animation stuff. And there's some goofy, quick, quirky stuff being said about the way the show has been, but in that, uh, she goes to transform, and they ask her to do it off screen because it's cheaper to do that. It's not cheaper to do that because they just don't have the money. It's cheaper to do that because they don't want to pay people to do it.
Yeah,
You know what I
but they'll turn
mean?
it into a punchline,
So she transforms off
and it's just
screen
cheap.
and walks
Yeah,
in, yeah, exactly. So because they were so comfortable to make that as a joke is hugely telling to me on how Disney feels, it definitely has its foot on the throats of these people. And they also think that it's not even an issue. Like they're that far
yeah,
beyond it. So good for these
yeah. I
people
mean,
for getting out there.
yeah, and I think this will also like for the I guess the Marvel fans that still exist out there who are maybe listening to this, like it's cool you like it and whatnot, but I'm telling you, you'll have a better product the more Disney is unionized. Yeah, you might not get it as soon as you'd like, but wouldn't you rather wait an extra year, maybe 2 years, for a visually well done film on top of their normal stuff that they do? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I'd rather uh I'd rather have that with things that I like. I'd rather them take longer if it means that the product is gonna look good, and also it makes it last longer too. Like if you watch a lot of go watch like Pirates. I go back to Pirates of the Caribbean. Like they put
That
a
first
bunch of
one's really
fucking
good,
money, put a bunch of fucking money into
visually.
it, and those the main three at least still look visually like as if they came out today. If anything, they look a lot better than a lot of other shit Disney has done in the
Yeah.
last 5 years easily because one they
Even
had the
that Prince of
money.
Persia movie, when we
Yeah,
watched that a few years ago, did
looked
not
really
look
good.
dated. You know, it
Yeah,
looked good
and
for the
granted, were they
time and
probably
good now,
crunching then? Yes,
most likely.
but they also were putting a lot more money into it. These some of these Marvel movies are not huge. I mean, they're bigger budgets, but they're not huge budgets. But it's usually for marketing and actors who are getting the cuts at this because that you want your 7 Chris Hemsworths in it. Then you have to pay for that. I don't know. I just feel like it's clearly rushed, and if you care about the product at the end of the day, then this should be good news in at least that regard. For me,
Right.
I'm just excited that people are actually hopefully
It's
can
snowballing
at least
too.
start getting compensated more fairly. I don't think they'll ever get compensated fairly uh, because of how much money these movies make. I feel like they should just be by percent. It should just be cuts from the film, in my opinion. Be like, okay, movie
Oh
makes
yeah.
$500 million, give them 10% of that. I'm not even joking because like it
Yeah.
it to me it's just like they are such an important aspect of especially these films that are just using green screens aren't using set pieces as much anymore.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. It's just funny to me too to see like every once in a while it pops up on Twitter, but like this movie that had an $80 million budget, let's say Barbie or whatever. Oh, it looks so good. And then they show like the $300 million Marvel movie, and they're like, why? And it's like like it has more money. It should look better. And it's like, well, because they're rushed and deadlines are shorter, and Marvel doesn't give a fuck because we keep showing up to go see them. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I think
Another
Barbie movie, for example, is just gonna last so much longer. Like 10 years from now, it's gonna look as honestly because they use a lot of practical, but they also have stuff in there when they need to. That's
There's a
digital, but
lot
it's gonna
of
look so much
VFX
better.
in there because I don't. And someone attached that movie tried to claim that there was no VFX, no none of that, and said, "Oh,
Oppenheimer is
here's
the
the
one that
part in the
doesn't.
credits that has." No, I saw that and like, no, that's not actually true. That is, they're trying to claim that CGI and VFX are the same, and they're not because they said there's no CGI, but there's a shit ton of VFX in there. You know what I mean? Which is
I
still
mean,
post digitally added effects. Just because you didn't
right.
make a man out of a computer, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
does not mean that
but
you
I
didn't
think
do
what
any of
for
that.
me though, like in that movie, I'm saying is like, I know I could tell you that right now that movie's gonna in 50 years is gonna look brand new because of just what they did differently. But yeah, like I could tell you, Black
It's gonna
Panther
have that
2
new
already
car
looked like
smell.
dog shit. Black Panther 2 is gonna look like episode 1 of Star Wars, Attack on Naboo levels of quality. I'm sorry, that's what it's gonna look like in the
Wow.
next 10 years, in my opinion. You're gonna watch that
Wow.
again and be like, dude, this looks so bad. What? I don't
I was
remember looking
watching.
better. It's like,
I haven't
yeah.
seen that movie, and I don't want to rail on Black Panther specifically or anything like. So a lot of the Marvel
I
movies
just
are
picked
like
that
that.
one.
But
That's the
yeah,
one that were like
um,
really like ended it for me. It was Thor Ragnarok, or sorry, Thor 4 or whatever it's called, Love and
Love and the
Thunder, and then
Thunder.
like we talked about that, and then it was after that I watched Black Panther. I'm like, I'm done. I'm tapping out. It's over for me.
I was
Guardians was only
watching.
because we for Chronicles of
Right,
Diesel,
and
and that was good.
did
So
want to see it end. I did not see Ant Man or did not see Black Panther
yeah, I didn't
2.
see it, man.
But I was watching a Dungeons and Dragons video by Matt Colville talking about leaders and where power comes from in a civilization and whatnot, and how to apply that in your D&D games is world building stuff. And he's talking about like where the king, like it's a fight, that the king is challenged for the right to be king. They have to fight for, and the early part in the movie, the guy fights him, and T'Challa wins, and it's like on a ledge, a cliff in water, and there's like a waterfall going off or coming down, and all the different various leaders of the different parts of Wakanda are all up on tiers up lining up the sides of this waterfall, and I paused because I don't really pause movies if I'm watching them on the TV. I paused a YouTube video, and I'm like, wow, these people look like they aren't even in the same part of the universe as this rock wall they're supposed to be standing on ledges of. Like, that was a 2018 movie that was before we heard about all of this. I'm sure people were complaining back then too about the VFX stuff, but like, man, there are
Right.
so many parts of this that don't look good, but then like they make sure that they have 10 times as many people work on the zoom in shot of Iron Man's face or Iron Man's helmet and gloves so that that looks really convincing and that's all people remember. But yeah, no, you're right. Like rushed and shoddily put together in a lot of aspects these movies are. So they
Like,
can't
yeah,
afford the pace in which they're making them. You know, if you want to make all of these movies, then, you know, you have to spend more time if you want them to actually look good because you're going to be spending more money. You know what I mean? Like, I honestly don't think that even if they just say, okay, we are going to spend 3 times as much per movie
yeah,
in
yeah.
all the right places, you know,
It
which means a lot
requires
more people. I don't think you're actually going to see the movies be any better because of the rushed aspect. You can't make a movie in 2 years. I'm sorry. For a movie like this, you can't make that in 2 years and have it look anything other than
yeah,
dog shit.
yeah.
IMO.
And I used Pirates of the Caribbean, which they did, I think every 2 or 3 years came out. But at that time,
They're not, but
like
they're
they
not. It's not one studio juggling 4 projects at
right,
once,
they had an
10
art
at different
direction. They
stages.
had a
You
they had
know.
a cohesive, obviously cohesive art direction, like I said, and just yeah. I don't know. I follow a lot of VFX folks on Twitter who like often shit on the people who are like, why does this movie look better than this movie despite the budgets? And they're always like, it's usually because of what you said, where they have multiple people working on it, or it's just a lack of art direction or consistency with that, and or there it's being rushed and be like, hey, we need it by
Yeah.
this date. That's too not it's too quick of a turnaround. Well, get it done as long as it looks decent enough. Okay, maybe put some blur on it so it doesn't look as bad, you know.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah. Oh, speaking about
but no,
blur, just random
the blue
thought.
blur.
Uh, yes, the Sonic Blue Blur. No. Uh, I was there every now and then. I'll see a movie. You know, films are in 24 frames a second, but your television is 60 hertz. You know, or a 30 hertz container is most likely what the film is being put into. So there's some frame time issues with that, and you can really see like the judder type of effect where you can clearly see like boom and then boom and then boom and then boom type of thing when in some movies will have the camera turn and you see this big panning shot of an environment and it really feels choppy and I'm always like that it's always so ugly and then I realize like if you just have a little bit of like there's no motion blur on those shots and whenever I see that it's because there's zero motion blur that masks over that even if it's just a little bit the way cameras work but
Yeah,
you know
but
those
then you have
those
the
movies are
opposite
always shot and
sometimes. I've seen movies where they're doing a pan like that, and then
it's so
like
smeary looking.
it's blurry. Like I don't know what I'm watching. And then, but if you watch it at
It's a
home,
fine line. It all depends on
but then if you watch it at
the size
home,
of the
it's
aperture.
like
But yeah,
it's. I'm like, oh, that's fine now. Weird, and it's like,
yeah,
yeah, because just the difference between a movie screen and your television. That's why I think sometimes they don't care about it being in the movie theater because they're like, well, we'll get more money on streaming probably anyways. So
yeah. And I
you know,
mean, like I forget. I think it was Nolan talking about like he always buys movies physical, and I'm sure any movie lover is gonna buy movies physical anyway. But because like when they make sure that their Blu-ray or their Ultra HD Blu-ray is to the color corrections, the grading, the specific specs that they want it to be, but they don't really have any of that control over with streaming. They can't
let's
because it
yeah,
could get changed at any time or anything like that too. But also like, you know, you can really tell if you have a nice TV, if you have a 4K TV, we'll just say, um, and you own a movie on a 4K Blu-ray disc, you can tell a noticeable difference in quality between that and the streaming version. The bit rate is so much lower on those streaming versions. You do see
to load it up
macro
quick. Yep.
blacking, yep, and all sorts of stuff. Like if so this is my PSA out there for you. If there's a few movies that you really love, buy them physically just so that you have a clean and nice, pristine version of that for your own
Yeah.
sake.
I could
That's what I
tell when
do.
I watched John Wick 3 before I saw John Wick 4. I had it on 4K and like I just had it ready to go for whenever John Wick 4 was coming out. We were going to watch that one, then go to the theater and watch the next one. And like playing on the PS5 on my 4K TV, like I'm like, damn, this like it just looks so much better,
Yeah,
honestly, than
yeah,
like if I
yeah.
watched it on Amazon and bought it digitally on there.
Oh
You
man,
know what I mean?
I before I realized this, I purchased Into the Spider-Verse through Amazon. I own it on Amazon. I'm like, oh, this looks good. But then I watched the 4K Blu-ray of it. And I'm like, oh my god, this just looks so much better. Just looks so much better. So yeah, PSA from the folks at the Sonic Movie Show. Hey, we have news that you might find interesting here. Relating to video game movies. Why don't you go and
Hmm.
kick us off with this, Devin?
Yeah. I what for where we ranked this one? I think it was A tier,
Yeah.
maybe S tier. I think it was A.
Yep.
The sequel to this A tier video game movie, Uncharted, is supposedly being highly considered. The producers say we're definitely looking to making another. Obviously, they're not starting it anytime soon because of the strikes, and once again, we support the strikes.
Yep.
But cool. I am fine with not fine. I'm pretty happy that they're making a second one. I mean, it did make decent money. It was one of the top
Made a
10
lot of
video
money.
game movies. So,
Yeah.
um,
I'm
and
just
it had
surprised they didn't
generally
start
well
right away.
reviews.
But
Hey, Tom Holland's a
yeah.
busy guy though.
I mean, I'm sure it was only contracted with those actors with for one movie and stuff like that, because in
Right.
case it failed, just like how I think the Gran Turismo movie's probably gonna bomb critically and commercially. Uh, but yeah, I mean, we both enjoyed it. We did rank it. We did give it an A rank. So it's in that A tier. Um, so it was a highly entertaining movie. I am down to see more. I'm down to see more original ideas because you remember that movie did draw a lot of visual and set piece inspiration from the four video games, the four main ones for sure.
Yeah.
It did have its own unique stuff with the helicopter lifted pirate ships. That was cool. That was unique. That felt
Yeah.
unique. But there was definitely moments where I'm like, oh, this reminds me of this and this and this and this. But
Yeah.
it had that feel in it, which
It
is good. But
felt
hey,
more
maybe it
like
has more.
Indiana
Maybe the sequel had
Jones in
more
a
unique stuff.
felt like a more fantastical Indiana Jones, I guess the best way to describe it. Still was
Even though
grounded, but it
there's
just
aliens and in the Ark of the
you know what I
Covenant.
mean though. Like the set pieces, like the pirate ship, for example, I think was a little bit more out there. I think with Indiana Jones, it's more of like the plots can be fantastical, but the actual like environments of Indiana Jones doing stuff outside of the monkey swinging, I guess, in the fourth one. But this one felt a little bit more fantastical and like, hey, we're gonna defy gravity a little bit more in this or whatever. I mean, it's Uncharted. Nathan Drake
Yeah.
defies gravity at all times,
Yep.
and has the strongest hands and fingers in the world.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep. His finger grip is off the charts.
it's probably on it. It's funny, like it's Tom Holland because he plays Spider-Man. I think Nathan Drake has better finger strength than Spider-Man. Honestly, it's more impressive at least because Spider-Man can just stick to things.
Right.
Nathan Drake's
And
just
he's
freehanding
super
that
strong, to be fair,
shit.
too.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but no, yeah.
So yeah.
I hope it's S tier this time though. I'm gonna have higher expectations this time going in. I mean, I'll take
Oh,
another A
absolutely.
tier considering we've watched a lot of C and D tier video game movies. So at
Yeah,
least an A.
I'll take a good movie. You know what? I deserve a good movie, please.
Yeah, I want an S. I guess I don't. I
Yeah,
shouldn't say it's my expectation though. I should change. I should pull that back a little bit. I'll take another A. I'll take another A easily all day.
I think by the time we get like a trailer or more news on this, we might want to do a bigger discussion on what we want to see from the sequel. But I will just throw out there, I would love it if they do this as a series, or even if there's just one more. I would like the running gag of every single one of these has a Nolan North cameo in it. Just like that first one where he acknowledges that, hey, I did something like that similar.
Yeah.
Something similar happened to me. I want him in every movie in the same person. He just at some point he gets stumbled into and he has some sort of comment. And that's it. That's the only thing I want.
Like
That
Stanley.
would make me happy.
You want to go back to the Marvel
Yeah.
thing, Stanley?
Yeah, but like Yes. Yeah, yeah. Make him the Stanley of all future Sony movies. You know, have Nolan North be in all of them. That would be awesome.
Great.
One of the racers in Gran Turismo reveals
He
removes
looks
his
over in the
helmet.
car
And,
over and it's him or something, or
yeah,
he's in the fan. He's in the crowd. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's it really with that news. And there's one final bit of news, piece of news I thought that was already said and done, but it's official. Sega has purchased Rovio for 776 million
And
US
not
dollars
the
worth of euros.
candy, the Rolios or whatever they're called, spelled
Sure.
very similar.
Those are
I forget what they're
Rolos.
Rolos. That's what I keep thinking of every time I see the word. I think of the chocolate. I'm
Those
like, wow.
birds look edible. Those looks like some tasty birds. I think the
Wasn't
red
there
one
fruit
was full
snacks of
candy.
them at some point?
Oh, I'm sure there was branding up the wazoo.
Let me look up Angry
If
Birds
there's
fruit
Call of
snacks.
Duty Mountain Dew in 2010, I'm guarantee there was Angry Birds snacks of some sort. 100%.
Oh
A different
yeah,
color.
yeah. Angry Birds space fruit snacks. They had a space version specifically.
Sweet.
Hell yeah. They do look like I do want to munch on them and just be like, oh, this one's cherry. The red one, like he'd be definitely
Right.
cherry.
Right, right. Speaking about Angry Birds, I don't know if it's next episode or not, but we're going to be watching that Angry Birds movie.
Soon.
Yeah,
We
soon.
probably should be very soon because we only have.
I think
What,
it's
like-
next. I think it's next.
Is it next?
We'll see. We'll see. It might be next episode. We'll see if
Bring
anything
your
else
fruit
happens.
gummies. Your
And
fruit,
fruit
snacks.
gummies. Yeah, yeah. But yeah. So essentially, it needed to be approved by the shareholders of Rovio. The threshold needed to be 90%, 96.3% agreed to it. So I guess
There
the
was
other
one guy. He's like, this is the biggest
3.7
mistake.
I guess he's probably like, someone else will come with more money. Maybe he thinks Microsoft
No.
will.
He's like the opposite, where he's like, this business was always about the birds. Birds
Yeah.
first. We need to sell more fruit snacks. That's it.
Oh.
If we let someone buy us, it's over. The integrity of Angry Birds is done.
You
The
say
legendary-
that, but I guarantee. Well, as a shareholder, I
legendary
don't know.
Angry
But if it was
Birds.
a private company, you always see that in like stories or whatever. The one that says, "No, we cannot sacrifice our family's honor." This company. My grandfather built this
The
company.
Angry
We're not
Birds
selling
family.
to the foreigners in Japan. We are Finnish. This is our movie. Not we are finished, but we are the Finnish. Because we're from Finland. Um, but yeah, cool. So that's that. There's no other news.
Yeah, I'm just gonna
You know.
pretend that one guy is just there, and he was just dead set. And he's like, "No, my grandfather owned Angry Birds, and his father before him, and
So then
will
Sega
not let
will be
him
like,
take it."
you know what? If your dream is to sell the fruit snacks, we found a warehouse full of them. We'll pay you that instead of your shares. What your shares are owed. Here you go. Have all the fruit snacks. Sell them out of your garage if you really
Or
want.
they have them redacted. You know what I mean?
They make him. They vote him. Yeah. Okay.
They vote him
Um,
off.
Off the universe for sure.
They found him dead in a bathtub. He just has a bunch of fruit snacks in his throat. He died doing what he
Oh
loved.
my god, choking on some birds.
And then that's
But,
where the conspiracy starts. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's all of our
He
second
always
news.
he always chewed his gummies. He would never swallow them whole.
That's how we know he was murdered.
Yeah.
Yeah. Forensic scientists have found entire fingerprints on the the gummies.
And they were not his.
Yeah, yeah. Someone was force feeding him gummies. Also, there's a toaster in this bathtub. Sounds like
totally
there
unrelated.
was a
Totally
plan
unrelated.
B in case the gummies didn't work. But yeah, that's all our news. You have anything? I don't know. Have you been watching or playing anything? Just off the cuff. You have a little bit of time.
I mean, we finished. We watched. It was only one season available. We watched. It's so stupid. Love It or List It, Australia.
Oh my god.
And I'm like, oh, is this gonna be? Because I've seen. There was one day when last time I was in Rochester, and everyone else was doing stuff. I didn't have a car or anything, and so I was like, well, I'm at my grandparents' house, and I'm just gonna watch whatever's on TV. And then HGTV popped up, and it was Love It or List It, the American one, and I watched it all day. And I got more intrigued because I saw it as a competition. And every episode, it was like 5 straight where
Mm.
they kept loving it. The List It guy couldn't get a dub to save his life.
Wow.
Yeah. And I also got really mad because everyone was clearly like, yeah, my budget is like, our house is worth $850,000, and my budget is like $200,000 to either move or add renovations, and it's like, I wish I just had like $10,000. You know what I mean? And they're just talking
Brandon,
about
where's
that.
my money?
Right, and of course, like they always, and what I didn't like about the American version was that they every time they're like, I want an updated kitchen every time, and then the solution was always a kitchen island. I to the point where I fucking hate kitchen islands now. At this point, I'm like, no, fuck kitchen islands. I hate them. And everything's always so modern and sleeking and whatnot. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, I'm curious how Australia is going to be different besides
Okay.
the accents. I was like, how is this going to be different? And the price ranges were still the same. So all these people were like, yeah, I'm a business executive at some random company we can't name, or I'm an ex rugby player. So 2 of them were like ex sports, like professional sports stars or
Okay.
whatever. Um, and the hosts were much better. I liked them more, and it was much more even. Out of the 10 episodes, I think it went 6 love it, 4 list it. So it's much more better consistency,
Okay.
and some of the stories were a little bit better because it's kind of like reality TV a little bit. I mean, there's obviously I do like did like the design more. In the, I forget his name, but the Love It guy, the guy who's renovating their houses, he was so much better than the lady in Love It or List It in America, because
Really?
like he's tearing down like half the house. He's like, I'm gonna, you
Wow.
want more kitchen space? I got you. He's like, I'm gonna tear down this wall, then I'm gonna use your deck and create a second room to do this. I'm gonna use half of your garage and turn that into a second bedroom. And he's like crazy. I'm like, this guy's a wizard.
Huh.
Yeah. So like, shout out
I
to
want
that
to see
guy.
that guy's Quake levels he's made. Someone
But,
thinks like that, you know, they make some good ass Quake levels.
I'm sure he seems very creative. But yeah, we wanted to, there was only 10 episodes in one season. I looked it up. There is multiple seasons, but on Max or whatever the fuck, there's only the one season. And then we just have been starting up again because I know there's a new season out. We haven't got to the new season yet, but we're continuing Harley Quinn on
Oh.
Max as well, the cartoon. And as you know, I'm not a big like cartoon fan, really, generally speaking. But I know we keep like going back to this show every like week, like we binge it for a little bit, then we watch some other new stuff or whatever, and come back to it. And the show is really fucking funny. It doesn't take itself seriously at all. It's definitely not a like it's definitely for adults. So there's like blood and guts, swearing. Like Harley's swearing like every other word. It's fantastic.
Nice.
There's a lot of references to pop culture. They actually made one of the episodes made a joke about one of them losing their SAG union healthcare or
really?
something like that. And I'm like, wow,
That's
this is
funny.
way too ahead of time. And there's like, yeah, there's a lot of just funny bits in it and whatnot. And I would say 90% of the jokes hit for me, which is pretty good for a comedy based thing for me. Like usually that's where it needs to be for me to continue watching it. And like, yeah, I don't really care for DC generally speaking, but like they're like, yeah, the Justice League is whatever. Batman is in it, like here and there, and there's like
Okay.
side stuff with Batman, and they just fucking make fun of him all the time, and it's just fantastic. Like, and you wind up like cheering for like them all the time. Like you're like, yeah, fuck
Well, he's
Batman.
put them in jail enough times, you know.
And that's always a joke too, is that they always wind up at Arkham. They're like, one of the bits was that Harley was sad or whatever because of a relationship or whatever, and the security guard's like trying to be nice to her about it, like, hey, do you want to talk about it? And she's like, no, I'm fine, leave me alone. And then he's like, I'm just trying to help. He's like, she's like, don't worry, I'll break out here when I'm done moping or whatever. And it's just, I love that like they're just constantly breaking out. Another thing I like about it is that there's the villains all like live in Gotham, and the only time they're ever like confronted is only when they're doing crimes. Otherwise they're seen as just like almost like
Hanging
regular
out.
folk. Like they're just hanging out. Like Harley and Poison Ivy are just like going to the mall or going to the store and like shopping normally, or like they'll steal it, and but no one really gives a fuck because it's Gotham. Gordon's in it as well, and he's just
Okay.
almost like a 10 times goofier version of what his character is supposed to be. Like he's the real good cop left. You know what I mean? He's always the only one
Right.
connected
Right.
to Batman, but like he's just like he's just I love his character a lot. He's such a douchebag, and like he's always
Okay.
drunk half the time.
Nice.
His daughter is Batgirl, but yet he doesn't
Right.
know it, of course.
Right.
So like, and he's like really like the first couple seasons, he's like emotionally distraught when Batman disappears because he's
That's
beat
his
up or
boyfriend,
whatever.
so to speak.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I get it.
I'd highly recommend it. It's a good show. I think to just binge and
Nice.
whatnot. And yeah, because I know season 4 just came out, so we just started season
Okay.
3 last night. So
What's the full title of the show? Is it just Harley Quinn?
yeah, it's just called Harley Quinn. Yeah.
Hmm. I might look for that. I might start that. I've been watching a DC animated show that is
Oh, there
not.
you go.
I don't want to say not for adults, but like is definitely uh, meant to be more all ages, and that's the. We talked about this in our first DC Fandom episode a couple years ago.
Hell yeah, I missed the
But
fandom, honestly.
they should bring it back. I guess it'd be
I
called the
didn't give a
Max
shit about
Dome.
like 90% of it, but I just liked the marketing and goofiness
You know
of it.
what?
Like,
If they rebrand it and it's something where I'm sure he doesn't have time, but like if James Gunn and the other guy, but James Gunn's the face, are in charge of the DC brand beyond movies and TV shows, like games and stuff as well, like, you know what? Make it something where he hosts it and like it's, the things he wants to talk about, present. They can bring it back. Just
and
probably
then you can
rename it
have
as
John Cena
DC
as
Direct.
Peacemaker, like do
Yeah,
bits or something
yeah,
here and
that'd
there.
be fun.
So, because he can
But
do
this
that easily.
in the first fandom, they showed off a picture, said, "Oh, we're making a animated Superman show called My Adventures with Superman." It looked at the time like it was focused on Lois Lane and
That's
Superman
what
was
I
there, but that's
thought
not the
from the
case.
clips I've
Maybe it
seen. Yeah.
was in their initial time, but it's just basically it's a cute Superman cartoon that is a he is now Superman for the first time, really. But he's like 22 or something like that, an intern for the Daily Planet. Same thing with Jimmy Olsen, his friend. He was taken many forms in like Superman movies and stuff like that. But photographer friend is also an intern, and Lois Lane is a reporter that who's an intern who's already been there, and it's just fun. I will say it's very, very 2020 forward in terms of like I don't want to say representation, but like the villains are all unique so far. I haven't seen anyone that I'm like, oh, this is a D-list villain from this one issue, Reborn or whatever. I think they're all brand new, and but it's a pretty diverse, I guess, lineup of villains in terms of the people. So it's got that 2020 plus forward looking lens, and it's cute. It's definitely uh, even though it's this show on Adult Swim, and the first episode was on YouTube. I
Hmm.
don't know if it's on Max. Maybe it is. Maybe it
Maybe
will be
is
when
it
it's
like a
done.
YouTube TV kind of thing where like the free
No,
they
they
hope
they
to get people
have
the first episode then subscribe or whatever.
uh maybe Adult Swim has a YouTube channel where I think that they literally just air Adult Swim as a YouTube live all the time.
Oh,
And then that first episode was just as a video on there as well, but none of the others. Last episode actually airs tonight, so I'm gonna watch that. I might find it somewhere if I can, on AdultSwim.com, or the cable service. Don't download ROMs. But yeah, it's cute, but it's definitely even though it's on Adult Swim, like the guns are lasers. It's still like that old like Batman the Animated Series thing of like no bullets. You know what I mean? Like the bad guys shoot laser guns at Batman because that's less graphic and real. So the shows can get away, animated shows can get away with people shooting at Batman. The same thing here with Superman, like it's laser guns that everyone has. But yeah, it's a cute show. I mean, it's definitely like these are 20-year-olds, and Lois like super like Clark Kent likes Lois, and I will say spoilers for people. I found this interesting that they did this in this first season, potentially instead of saving it for a future one if they ever do a future season. Though I think it's doing good enough numbers that I hope they make another. So spoilers, but they do find out that Clark Kent is Superman. At least just his main two friends there do find out in this season, which is something I thought would be like if this was a traditional show, the season 3 and season
Season
ending
6.
cliffhanger, like cliffhanger, hangover, whatever. Teases that what's gonna happen now. Like this happens this season, cool. So like we can move on, and there's some neat stuff. It looks like Amanda Waller, head of the Suicide Squad, is like a part of a different type of organization that the government has, and
The
they
World
want to
Health
take down
Organization?
Superman. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The CDC.
No, she's a part of the WHO, not the CDC. Or what's the other one that like liberals flipped out about when Musk put that sock puppet as a CEO on? And she's from was it WHIHO or something like that?
Whatever,
Like,
yeah.
who fucking knows? But yeah, it's a cute show. But I don't really watch much TV and stuff like that. But I have been slowly rewatching Mission Impossible movies so I can watch Dead Reckoning. Probably not in theaters at this point.
Yeah, I don't know if it's
Part
even in
one.
theaters anymore.
It might not be. I don't know. But watch the first three. I will say, as much as we shit on J.J. Abrams for Star Wars, we got to remember the man was really good at
Abrams.
starting reboots. The first Star Trek movie he did in 2009 was fun and good. And the third Mission Impossible movie was done by him. He directed that, and that's a good movie. Now, is he good at ending stories? If he were to wrap up Mission Impossible's franchise, I don't think he, has what it takes to pull it off. But like, he did a so quote unquote reboot because the 2000 film Mission Impossible 2, directed by John Woo, is very bad, very corny, and tonally different in terms of how Tom Cruise's character Ethan acts. So like it feels like a reboot in the sense of like, no, it is still part of everything, but like it's serious now, and the movie came out 6 years after that one, but very good. I have 3 more to watch, and then I'll watch Dead Reckoning Part 1. So I'm starting those, and then I have been playing through on my own Twitch channel, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion, the kind of remaster graphically of the 2008 PSP game Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII, a prequel to Final Fantasy VII. It is a PSP ass video game in the best ways, but in ways that will not be appreciated by anyone that is not old enough to have had
Played the original.
I don't mean that, but like there are definitely kids that will never know what it's like to play a handheld game, a part of a franchise that's different. Like you played PSP games, you played the 2 God of War PSP games. Those are a smaller scope, and there's lots of concessions being made versus God of War 2 on PS2 or 3 on PS3, right? But like you played that, and like your expectations need to be set, and you're playing through and you're trying to get the best you can out of what's there. That's what this game is like. That's what a lot of the PSP, the big ones, were like that. And this is a game where the story is short. I have found that a single story chapter of the 10 that exists are maybe an hour and a half in total in terms of gameplay. But there are 300 missions you can do at any save point
Jesus
that
Christ.
or like we have 15 different maps. They are not large at all. They're small, and they're usually like a Pac-Man maze type of stuff. And mission 43 here takes map B and then has just this section as a part of it, and it's mostly linear as fuck. There are 1 to 3 treasure chests in it and a boss at the end. You go from A to B, and that's what the mission is. There's 300 of those, and you can go back and forth. In this day and age, if like they were to make, I don't know, if Destiny, for example, was structured like that, be like, this is boring as fuck. I don't want to do this. This is repetitious. This is stupid. In the context of that, though, that's how they were like, no, this is a full like 60-hour or 40-hour video game because you have all this gameplay stuff to play, and specifically for like, because a lot of PSP games, the stories weren't all that much weren't long. They were short compared to their console peers. As far as an RPG goes, even though this was more real time, and it has weird elements to it, like a literal slot machine that gives you random bonuses, like being invincible for 20 seconds can randomly happen to you. I'm like, thanks, I guess. It means if I lose on a boss, I'll just try again until I get lucky. That doesn't make any sense. But the story's short, but it's an RPG, and you want to experiment with different builds and abilities and stuff. And here's how you do it. You can almost view it as this is the gameplay game, and you have your story. You know what I mean? But this is interesting that they released it when they did this remaster, because it covers things that would be spoilers to anyone that has not played Final Fantasy VII besides remake. Like, I know I spoiled stuff for you on the story of Final Fantasy VII, but let's say you didn't. I hesitate to recommend it to you because, like, it spoils a gigantic twist in the game. Like, it is the spoil of a gigantic twist in Final Fantasy VII. But, like, I think it's more of a hint at what Rebirth is going to do gameplay-wise, because I won't spoil it, but I feel like the structure on how that game is paced is it will hop between two different points of view, let's just say, and they want to make sure you know this guy from this game for that purpose, is my guess.
The dark view and the hero view.
Yes, exactly. Sonic Adventure 2. The Sonic and the Shadow. That's what I want. I want it to be Shadow the Hedgehog, Or what was it? Shin Megami Tensei 3 on PS2 had some sort of collaboration because it was the first one released in America on PlayStation 2, and Devil May Cry was hot at the time, and we have this game full of demons and it's dark and moody, so Atlas hit up Capcom and they got a collaboration that one of the demons you can summon is Dante. So on the box art, there's a circle saying on the American version that says featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series as like this wow. And they did
is it Dante like the original Dante? Like the original design Dante?
This was like shortly after I think Devil May Cry 2.
Okay.
So yes, it was a PlayStation 2 game.
Like pure like mid 2000s emo dude. Like
yeah. I don't think it was. It might have been because Devil May Cry 3.
Not saying the newer designs of him aren't, but like there was something about that original like.
Right. And I think the lighting in those games really helped with a lot of the bloom they were doing. Devil May Cry 3 Dante has like a leather strap to cover his nipples.
Hell yeah.
It's so wild. Anyway,
I love it.
Shin Megami Tensei 3 a couple years ago had an HD port, and they made Dante DLC that you could buy. But they also you can download from Atlas a sheet that you can print out as a sticker that is the featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series if you want to put that on your box, which they did, which I find funny. Anyway, I don't know how we got to there, but that's what I've been doing.
Can we talk about, speaking of DC, not DMC, but DC. Right. And I sent you that one clip, but I guess there's that fan-made movie. I didn't know that they were allowed to do this, but Superman Solar, that is just looks like really bad.
You sent me a clip, and I was shocked at how poor quality it was, how overacted it was.
They kept breaking. People are talking about how like it broke a lot of like the just general like rules of filmmaking, like the 180 degree. Rule, and also just like the acting is not like people are trying, but like when you just have a visual quality,
you can really
the visual quality
trying.
is dog shit too. It just doesn't, you can't get away with it. You know what I mean? Like you can get away sometimes with bad acting if the visual effects are good and whatnot. I believe in that like you can have characters and acting if like everything else around it is cool enough to get me through it. We've seen a lot of video game movies that have accomplished that. But man, just like, and I was like, I'm just so confused of like, how are they allowed to? We're talking about copyright and shit. I'm like, how are they allowed to do this? Maybe maybe I am pro copyright now for something like this. For this,
I don't want them to ruin Superman. Yeah, I saw the clip you sent me, and I saw that 180 degree clip that was going around on Twitter, where like I have no idea where he is in space, or not space, but like in the set, so to speak, because he's turning around and it's weird, but.
Yeah, and then the quote he says to, because they're like in the desert or whatever, and he's fighting whatever the bad guy is. I don't fucking know. It looks like an alien. I don't give a fuck. And he just says like, I have you right where you want me or whatever, basically equivalent. And he's like, now I can let loose. I'm like, sorry, Superman does not say let loose. I can't visualize that in my head of him being like,
No,
now I'm about to go unhinged, basically. Like,
he just
and
Superman's
it
not a
just
very
pans to
quippy
the
person.
earth and it shows lasers coming. Like,
Because it's cheaper.
yeah.
It's cheaper than having him fly. Yeah, I just read
I'm
in
like,
that
I don't
one
know.
clip
I
you said you
appreciate
sent
people
me.
trying to do like fan stuff. I get it, but the way
Know
like
your
it's just,
scope. Know what
yeah.
the scope is. Know what you're capable of.
Then there was a
Know what looks
Spider-Man movie
convincing.
too that people were dunking on, and then people were saying that they're connected, maybe made by the same studio. Uh,
Oof.
sheesh. That's all I'm gonna say. Sheesh.
Yeah, we'll. Oof. Hey, if we ever do a complete Superman film and television marathon thing, that will be on it as a joke. There's my commitment. We'll never
probably
do
could
this.
we probably could stream it and watch it because I think it's on YouTube. It's only 30 minutes. We should do that at some
I
point.
think I'll
maybe.
pass.
Oh look at this. People won't see this, but I'm sending Ethan a really cool picture of Dante. Like, tell me this isn't fucking just when we missed this. Like just send it on Discord.
To have to view it on my phone because
Oh yeah, I forget.
the thing will break.
Look how cool that is. Like this.
Oh yeah, I mean that's
sick.
the Dante.
What happened to
that's,
that? What happened to that? You know, like conservatives
Well,
are always
to be
like,
fair-
I miss the old American tradition. You know what I miss?
Exactly.
I miss my
I
goth
miss
boys
2002.
from. I miss 2002. Goth
Yeah.
dudes holding guns.
Well, you gotta remember too, like DMC5 Dante is old. You know, he's got stubble on
yeah.
his face. You know, he's grandpa punk. You know what I mean? He's not even
Yeah.
the main character.
I just
of that
remember
game.
because my dad played the game first. Like I watched him play it. I just remember the scene where like you get the new sword and the sword like I think flies off the wall or something and goes through him, and then he has to like pull
Pull it
himself
all the way through.
Oh,
Yep.
I'm like as a kid I was like, what? That's so cool. Like to me, that's just like an iconic for me, like gaming moment. Just when Dante got his new sword. Then I wound up playing
Iconic
it
gaming
completely
moments.
when I got older, and yeah, fucking love the original
Yeah, it's a
Devil
good
May
game.
Cry.
And you know the story that was originally Resident Evil 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Makes sense too.
That's all we have time for today, folks. Thank you for watching
We're
the
on a
Sonic Movie
tight
Show
schedule.
episode blank blank blank. I think this is 185. I'm not entirely sure. That's why I stopped saying the episode numbers because I'm never sure at this point. Some of them we record back to back and we decide later which one goes first.
Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, if you want to follow us on Twitter and TikTok and Tumblr and Instagram and Threads, you can do so by typing in @Sonic Movie Show in any of the search functions that you
We're
find.
not on Tumblr.
Did I say Tumblr?
I think so. Now I'm second guessing. I thought I heard Tumblr.
We're
I
not
don't know,
going
whatever.
on Tumblr. I hate that place. The weirdos are on Tumblr. I'm on Twitter, though, at Ethan Absolutely, and Devin's on Twitter at ChrisOnaFun. Let us know what you thought about Superman and
What do you think about
Angry Bird
Superman? Just
gummies.
generally. What do you
Yeah,
think about?
let us...
Give us your opinion. Rank. Can you tier rank Superman versus gummies of whatever your preference is? I want a tier ranking in the comments of what you
Which
like
is
more,
better,
Superman.
Superman or Sour Patch Kids?
Yeah.
In the comments
Tell me.
below.
I need to know. This is a very important poll.
It's our call to action at the end of our politically charged video about strikers and unions and patents and switches and
And Dante.
switchblades. Yeah, exactly, and nipple coverings. You know, it's frowned upon to depict male nipples in Japan. Yeah,
So
like
it's good
some-
for me to
some-
know if I visit there, I should not be wearing like a
but I think you can.
open T-shirt.
But I think like
I can?
character-wise,
Okay.
yeah. That's why like it blew people's minds in Mario Odyssey. Mario, you can see his nipples. You know what I mean? He's got little pepperonis on his chest. Goodbye, and talk to us, and goodbye.